Now that the Clintons are finished and Roy Moore is on the ropes, Democrats are spewing crocodile tears over their decades of covering up sexual abuse against women. We'll analyze their alleged repentance. Then Amelia Hamilton, Jacob Airy, and Candace Owens join the panel of deplorables to discuss that insufferable millennial card game, Cards Against Humanity, and its vow to subvert immigration law, the ironically named Global Atheist Convention, Reason to Hope, being canceled because no one wants to go, and the poetic diction of President Trump's latest tweets. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Oh, we got a new vintage for the Leftist Tears tumbler. We have a new vintage coming out this week. It is the Crocodile Tears vintage. We haven't seen these in a very long time, but they are pouring out like the likes of which we have not seen in a while. I need to subscribe a few more times just to contain them. Every Democrat across the spectrum is pouring out crocodile tears now that the Clintons are no longer useful. They can say, well, yeah, Bill wasn't so nice to women, and yeah, well, Hillary intimidated all of his victims and smeared them in the press and ruined their lives. But yeah, we shouldn't have done that, but hey, we've changed now because Roy Moore is on the ropes. Just for context, let's look at Bill Clinton accuser and alleged rape victim Juanita Broaddrick.
Then he tries to kiss me again. And the second time he tries to kiss me, he starts biting on my lip. Just a minute. He starts to bite on my top lip, and I try to pull away from him. And then he forces me down on the bed. And I just was very frightened. And I tried to get away from him, and I told him no. And I didn't want this to happen. But he wouldn't listen to me.
Did you resist? Did you tell him to stop?
Yes, I told him, please don't. He was such a different person at that moment. He was just a vicious, awful person.
Is there any way at all that Bill Clinton could have thought this was consensual?
No, not with what I told him and with how I tried to push him away. It was not consensual.
Do you know how the Clinton campaign and the Clinton machine tried to explain this at the time? They said, I think it was James Carville said this, well, you drag a $100 bill through a trailer park, you see what happens. That's how he explains away all of these accusers, like Juanita Broaddrick. Well, the tune has changed today. I wonder what's different now. I wonder what's different now in 2017 than it was when Bill Clinton and the Clinton machine was a force in Democratic politics. Wonder what it could be. The Atlantic ran a headline, Bill Clinton, a reckoning. They wrote, quote, if Weinstein and Mark Halperin and Louis C.K. and all the rest can be held accountable, so can our former president and so can his party, which so many Americans so desperately need to rise again. There it is. There's the whole argument. We just desperately need the Democrats to rise again, and that's why we're willing to do it. At least the Atlantic was honest about their motives for kicking Bill to the curb and admitting that they're horrible hypocrites over this issue for 20 years, 30 years. Matt Iglesias at Vox was not so honest. He said, quote, what he did to Monica Lewinsky was wrong and he should have to pay the price. He should have paid the price. At the time, I, like most Americans, was glad to see Clinton prevail and regarded the whole sordid matter as primarily the fault of congressional Republicans' excessive scandal mongering. Now, looking back after the election of Donald Trump, the revelations of massive sexual harassment at Fox, the news stories about Harvey Weinstein and others in the entertainment industry, and the stories about Roy Moore's pursuit of sexual relationships with teenagers, I think we got it wrong. Oh, do you now? Do you now? That's convenient timing, isn't it? Well, at the time, I was thrilled that they brushed all of this under the rug. But now we could use it against Republicans. Now we got Donald Trump. There's some allegations against him from random people. There obviously the allegations against Roy Moore. So I think I've changed my tune now. And do I have to protect Bill Clinton anymore? No, I don't. Is Hillary going to run again? Probably, but she's useless. Okay, good. Now we can move on. The Jake Tapper. We should play this clip first. This is Jake Tapper just within the last few days talking about Bill Clinton, the Juanita Broaddrick affair in light of Roy Moore.
Maybe it's, you know something, and maybe it's the Southern accent that reminds me of this, but I think we are, and we've seen some of this in the press. There was a story in the Atlantic called Bill Clinton, A Reckoning. Chris Hayes said something the other day, and other people have. But the accusers of Bill Clinton back in the 90s were never given the credence and treated with the same respect that these women are being treated. And I think that there is something to be said about how society has evolved since then. But in addition, it's hard not to look back at that period and think, you know what, the media treated those women poorly.
Yeah, without a doubt. You can't rewrite history, but what I am concerned about now is that I see a lot of Republicans, people like Ann Coulter on Twitter, going back and bringing up people like Senator Kennedy, Clinton, other people that did have previous acts of sexual misconduct, almost as a way of saying, well, they did it, we can too.
Well, you can't rewrite history. That's what she said. Well, you can't rewrite history. What can you say? But let's talk about more Republicans. Yeah, well, I know, Jake, you brought up Bill Clinton, but look, you can't rewrite history. Isn't that right? Now, good on Tapper for bringing this up, I guess. But again, this timing is just so absurd that it's really hard for me to take him seriously. He wrote a piece, by the way, during the biggest Clinton scandal, Monica Lewinsky. He wrote a piece for Washington City Paper titled, I Dated Monica Lewinsky. He went on a date with her, I guess. He said, quote, physically, she was pleasant without being overwhelming. She's a little chubby, but she's leaps and bounds prettier than that vacuous mugshot beamed all over the world. And I will say he does sort of defend her in that piece, but he trotted her out for a good tabloid article in that paper when he was just a young reporter, just like everybody else. And he's had this epiphany, the epiphany that, oh, we should have been harder on Bill Clinton, just right after the Clintons are no longer useful to them, and it would benefit Democrats to sweep them under the rug, because Jake Tapper, par excellence in recent years, flax for Democrats. In the New York Times, Michelle Goldberg, an op-ed columnist, wrote a piece called, quote, I believe Juanita. Now, she actually goes further in this piece than her co-partisans, and she defends the Democrats at the time. But she says there were plenty of reasons to disbelieve Paula Jones, some of the accusers, etc. But nevertheless, we should throw Bill under the bus now because he isn't useful to us anymore. It isn't just Bill Clinton, though. Democrat, anti-Trump fanatic Louis C.K. has gone down. Anthony Weiner, very famously, has gone down. Bizarrely, Jon Stewart was good friends, even a roommate, with both of them. Here is Jon Stewart talking about Louis C.K., his good pal.
Good friend and colleague Louis C.K. has been accused of and has admitted to some lewd acts involving women. What was the impact on you when you heard not only the accusations, but his admission?
Stunned, I think.
Is that right? That's right. Is it? Well, what is your... Hey, John, so I'm going to put you on the spot with your good friend of decades, whom you know very well, and you actually were asked this question last year, and you decided to punt on it. What happened when you found out that he's a sexual pervert? Stunned. Yeah, that's the ticket. Yeah. No, that's the ticket. I was completely stunned. Give me a break. There is this weird thing with Stewart, too, because he's famously been good friends with Louis C.K. for a very long time. He obviously knew about this. If everyone else knew about this, his good buddy Jon Stewart knew about this. But he also was roommates with Anthony Weiner. So when Andrew Breitbart broke the Anthony Weiner sexting scandal or tweeting scandal, he wouldn't cover it on the show. He wouldn't cover it for days and days and days. And eventually he said, well, look, I'm pals with Anthony Weiner. We used to live together in Hoboken, I believe. And eventually he had to cover it. He was forced to because it was so absurd. He wasn't covering the most salacious story in politics. But kind of a weird thing that Jon Stewart is pretty tight with both of the most extreme sexual deviancy stories in Democratic politics in the last decade or two. A little odd. I'm not accusing him of anything, but quite a coincidence. Then, of course, there's Hillary Clinton. It all goes back to Hillary Clinton. Hillary famously said on the campaign trail, all accusers should be believed. But of course, she then was in charge of the bimbo eruptions at the White House. She didn't believe those accusers. She stepped in 2010, we've learned, to overturn President Bush's ban of a European Islamist, Tariq Ramadan, who is the grandson of the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood. Bush had banned him from the United States. She personally stepped in to approve his visa. Ramadan has been accused of rape and sexual assault by 3 women in the last 10 days. She also publicly said that Juanita Broaddrick was not credible. And Juanita, by the way, says that Hillary Clinton pressured her to stay silent. So she said Bill raped her, and then Hillary came up to her, pressed her hand and said, we appreciate everything you do for us. and then looked into her eyes and said, "That means everything. I appreciate everything that you do for us," implying keeping quiet about the rape. Now, Juanita Broaddrick is firmly convinced that Hillary knew, Hillary pressured her, Hillary covered it up. Democrats now who are conveniently saying, yes, I believe Juanita. It took 20, 30 years, but yeah, now I believe Juanita. Okay. Put your money where your mouth is, because if you believe Juanita, then you have to believe her whole account, right? You can't just say, well, I believe this, but I don't believe this. She's trustworthy here, but she's a liar here. You have to give evidence for that. If you believe Juanita, then you believe that Hillary Clinton knew about the rape. Hillary Clinton pressured her to stay silent, intimidated her, and smeared other victims of Bill Clinton. And if you're willing to do that, then look at yourself in the mirror and ask what changed. What made you believe Juanita? Because you voted for the woman. You did everything within your power to put her into the White House just 12 months ago. Very convenient timing from Democrats. I'm not buying a bit of it. For further analysis, we bring on our panel of deplorables. We have an excellent panel today. Candace Owens, Jacob Airy, Amelia Hamilton. Thank you for being here. Amelia, your first time on the panel. Appreciate it.
Hi.
Candace, you have been red-pilled. That's your name. That's your screen name on the internet. So this sort of thing can happen. People can change their minds on plenty of things. Is there any chance that this change of heart is earnest, or is it just totally cynical nonsense?
It's absolutely not earnest. And in that clip that you just showed, it's just proof of that, because they're almost throwing it back on conservatives. They hate when a mirror is held up to them. They're throwing it back on conservatives. Well, how dare conservatives say this or say that, because they are being called out on their hypocrisy. And if it was at all genuine, then you're going to have to explain to me why they just tried very seriously to put Bill Clinton back in the White House.
Right. Right, that's exactly it. It's so recent. And the saying, well, we can't blame Hillary. No, if you believe Juanita, then you have to blame Hillary. Hillary is deeply at fault here. Amelia, in the 1990s, feminists came to Bill's defense, led by Gloria Steinem. They defended him because he shared their policy priorities. Is this such a bad thing? Policy questions of freedom, justice, security, national priorities, should they really be derailed because men are dogs?
I think that you can probably find a man who isn't a dog, who shares some of your beliefs, who shares some of your policy positions, and those are probably the men to support.
But I mean, particularly in these moments. So I'm as a man, as someone who identifies as a man, I will say we're all dogs. Every man is a dog. We all fall short of the glory of God. And God is dog spelled backwards, by the way. Is that a coincidence? I don't know.
It is
but
not.
in cases like these guys, is Gloria Steinem justified? Are Republicans in Alabama justified? Especially in Alabama, where you say all of the accusations are 40 years ago. They seem credible to me. But regardless, we're talking about issues of freedom, national politics. Politicians, by definition, are scumbags. Should we vote for them anyway, or should we allow this personal behavior from these dogs to derail a political agenda?
No, we need to have some kind of standards. And, you know, seems like a pretty low bar to be able to pass. And just because they share certain political beliefs, they still have to be decent human beings. You know, and like you said, politicians, they tend to be little, like you said, scumbags. But, you know, we can't just let things of this nature especially go because they share certain policy beliefs. We have to, like I said, have some kind of standards here.
But should we unilaterally disarm? I mean, this is the trouble. A lot of the commentary today on Clinton is, if we had only held him accountable, then maybe politics wouldn't have degraded itself such as it is. You know, the founder of the Treasury Department, a founding father, Washington's aide-de-camp, Alexander Hamilton, famously cuckolded a man named James Reynolds. It was the first sex scandal in American history. And John Adams, second president, said there weren't enough whores in Philadelphia to contain his superabundance of secretions, rather. Obviously, I see a running theme in American politics. Had Democrats held Bill Clinton to account in the 90s, would we see a politics that is not so degraded today?
I think politics is always going to be degraded. And like you said, it always has been. I think we just need to hold everyone accountable always. They should have done it then. We need to keep doing it now. I think things are a lot more public now. We've got social media. We've got everything else. So I think that's in a lot of ways a good thing. People know what's happening now. Things are being made public. And now that they are being made public, we need to do something about it.
All right, that's what we have to do. It is all very public now, and this whole show is public for all of you up to this point. I'm sorry. If you don't subscribe to thedailywire.com, I have to say goodbye to Facebook and YouTube. I know, we have so much more to cover today. We have the poetic diction of Donald Trump's tweets, we have that stupid game Cards Against Humanity, and we make fun of atheists. But you can only do it if you go to dailywire.com right now. You haven't even heard from Jacob Era yet, but probably that's incentive to just log off right now. If you go to Facebook or rather, if you go to dailywire.com, what do you get? You get me. You get the Andrew Klavan Show. You get the Ben Shapiro Show. Yada, 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 yada. But look at this, folks. The leftist tears Tumblr. With all of the crocodile tears pouring out from all corners today, you better get it. You're going to have to get the Atlantic vintage, the New York Times vintage, the Jake Tapper vintage, on and on and on. So go over there right now. By the way, mailbags tomorrow. If you subscribe today, you can submit a question. I will change your life for the better ASAP. So go there, dailywire.com. We'll be right back.